the fact that we even exist, as cliche as it is, it's pretty fucking crazy. Don't take yourself too seriously. You're just one person. You know, we're all a lot more alike than we are different. Like, do what you want to do. Don't waste your fucking life doing bullshit that you don't want to do.
All right, what's up, everybody? It's time for episode 40 of What You Don't Hear. It's actually wild to me that I'm this far into making that show. 40 freaking episodes of this podcast. That is crazy. So, this week, I have a super fun talk with my friend Cole Thompson from the band The Hunting Project. Now, Cole and I originally met a few years ago when we were talking about working together for some Hunting Project stuff. When we ended up actually setting for a couple hours longer than even our originally scheduled meeting, and talked about a lot more than just working together. We really hit it off, and then from there, kind of sort of just kept up with each other from afar via social media, I suppose. So I was excited to sit with him here and not only catch up, but really get to know him for the first time outside of just talking about working together. And more so dive into what the last couple years or so has been like for him, because what spawned this episode even happening was, you'll hear me explain it again in the actual conversation with Cole, but The Hunting Project posted new music, right? So I went to check it out, and I read the social post that he put out along with the release, and it was just a few paragraphs, but man, there was a lot to it. He shared that he had been in multiple car accidents within like a 12-month span, and in what he went through surviving and rehabbing from those, and how his new music expressed a lot of this and shared a lot of that story and what he went through and just all this stuff. And I was like, man, I need to talk to him about this stuff. And of course, what better place to get to know your friends better than a podcast that's shared with everybody. So let's make it happen. I sit down with Cole one more time to catch up and capture this wild story and talk all about his new music and everything in between. Episode 40, The Wild Conversation with Cole Thompson.
That is literally how I got into it. That and like, you know, long car drives or whatever. But like being at work, like I don't have that opportunity at work now, but
okay.
Are we rolling right now?
We're rolling.
Oh, so we're in the thing.
Yep, we're in the thing. This is the magic of podcasts.
Wow,
we just start.
We just start talking about shit?
And you don't even know.
Dude, holy shit. See, I've been thinking to myself all day, or since you reached out to me, I was like, am I interesting enough to go on like a podcast and talk for 2 hours? I don't think I am, but if you think I am, here we go, man.
Well, here's the thing. One, a lot of guests say that. They're like, if you want me on, like I guess. And I'm like, well, one, everybody in the theme of the show has a story that no one's heard.
Yeah.
No one knows what you've been through every day or at the beginning of your life, the middle of life, where you're at, where you want to go. So that's interesting in itself. Yeah. Everybody has an interesting story. So I think everybody has a valuable like message and story that can be shared.
Absolutely.
Two, you're talking to a guy that 100% believes he's not interesting enough to host a podcast. Yes. I'm on every episode. Think about that.
This is true.
I'm sitting and I'm like, okay, I got to carry this thing along. I got to sit and chat with everyone. And I got to hope that I'm interesting enough to continue to bring people back, even if they're not interested in the guests that I have on. So I'm 100%, I'm in that same boat with you, where I'm like, man, like I really like doing this.
Yeah.
And I focus pretty hard on trying to be a good podcast guest, but man, am I interesting enough to sit and do this? So
I feel like probably everyone thinks that, you know?
Yes.
Or I don't know, maybe it's just us. I feel like we're kind of similar in a lot of ways with our mannerisms and stuff, you know? Yes. I'm an overthinker. I can guarantee you are too.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
There is not one thing that I will like sort of just think on for a second.
Yeah.
Be like, yeah, that's it. Like I'm always like, I'm not so much like, I feel like over the years it's changed from not being confident. Like I can confidently make decisions and say that like, I'm going to do this, or I know I can do this, but it doesn't still come without like the overthinking process of like, but how should I do it?
Yeah.
And what happens if I do it? And then how does this thing play into that? And how does this play into that? So like I overthink in that way. I don't know where, like where do you feel like you get caught overthinking a lot? Like
I definitely, it's not like I'm not confident in myself, because there's been many times throughout my life where I've lost a lot of confidence in myself during all that like stuff that I'm sure we're going to dive into with my car accidents and shit. I was not feeling too hot about myself, you know? But for me, I feel like I'm very concerned with how my actions affect other people. you know, and I never want to be the person that's making someone sad or angry or upset or anything. And that's not to say that I don't have a backbone, because if someone's trying to fuck me over or something, like, I'll be a dick if I have to. I don't want to, you know, but I never want to do something that's having like negative consequences on other people. So, but then, you know, I'll get up this morning, I'm like, what the fuck am I going to wear to this thing? Because it's on video, you know? Right. So I'm like, what am I going to wear? And I was like, all right, going all black, whatever, you know? So it depends. There's some things that I can just kind of just do or whatever. And within music, I feel like I don't really overthink things very much. Like I used to, but when I'm writing music now, I just do it. You know,
you feel like it just kind of comes more naturally.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, so was it always that way, or did it like take? Do you feel like it took building that confidence up to like let it come naturally, or was it like day one you jumped into music and you were like, wait a second, this is the one thing that I don't have to like overthink?
It's kind of been like that. It's always been something that I'm just like. There was a lot of it just felt so natural. And I don't like saying the word natural talent, like I just knew how to do it, because obviously I didn't just know how to do it. I had to learn how to do it. But it's always been something that has just been very carefree for me, just doing it. But, you know, over the past couple of years, I've worked with a lot of different people, a lot of different personalities, and I found a lot of different people kind of, not on purpose, but forcing me into doing things when it came to making decisions with writing. And I've worked with a lot of people that I feel like they completely overthink it. You know, like for me, if I'm writing something, I'm just going to fucking do it. Like, I'm just going to see what happens. I'm going to, whatever fits, whatever feels right to me. I don't really go into writing music with any intention at all of writing a song like this, or a song that I'm talking about this, or, you know, I have no intentions of it sounding exactly a certain way usually. Even when I'm right in the middle of the process, I kind of just wing it, to be honest. But there's so much that I feel like I can't express through words, you know? And there's some things that can only be said through music. I feel like when it comes to feelings, you know, not exactly concepts or anything, but the way something makes you feel. Like, how many times in your life have you felt something, and even if it's just like an instrumental piece or something, just really connected with you because of that feeling that you feel like it brings out, you know?
Yeah.
So when I'm in the middle of writing, a lot of time it's very vibe-based or groove-based, or like, you know, sometimes it's like what the weather is that day, or that's how I am when I'm listening to music as well. Like fall weather, that October, I'm putting on some fucking Balance and Composure, Citizen, like that kind of stuff. Like right now I'm in a very heavy phase, so I listen to like the new Structures EP the entire way here. Have you heard that?
I haven't listened to it yet, but I want to. Dude. I've seen a lot of people posting about it and being like, this is so sick, but I haven't. I keep forgetting actually to dive in.
Dude, it's straight fire, man.
Is it?
Yeah, I go through so many phases with music. You know, I don't know if you're the same way.
I feel like I actually go in phases in music, and then I'll go in phases where I only want to listen to podcasts, and then I only want to listen to music. Yeah. So sometimes when I'm in the music phase, like there'll be a month straight where I'm just like pop songs. That's it. Like I don't want to listen to anything other than the 1975.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's just sort of it. But then like you're saying how you're in like a heavy phase right now where I'm like, I've been listening to My Ticket Home, Strangers Only album for 30 days straight. And
fucking great album.
To turn on. Yeah. It's a really good album.
It's so underrated, man.
It is.
Because people just don't know about it. That's the problem.
Which is so strange. And like, and there's, I'm sure, you know, a ton to that. But as looking at it from the outside perspective, I'm like, that album should have changed everything.
It really should have.
The weird thing is, I think that's a classic case of before its time. Yeah. Because I think they, like, that was like, what, 2013, I think, something like that. And I feel like that came out like a year or two before making radio rock became the cool thing for scene bands to do. Yeah. So like they switched up their vibe and like, you know, just like heavy Nirvana basically, and doing that sort of like new metal infused like sort of thing. And then like a couple years later is when every other band was like, yeah, no, we're doing like it. The cool thing now, the trendy thing is to turn yourself from a scene band into like a radio rock band. Yeah. Where I feel like they did it right before anybody else. Not everyone. Yeah. You know, of course you got like bands like Bring Me the Horizon, who are kind of the constant trendsetters a little bit. But
they've always been ahead of the curve. Yeah. Always.
But it's like you have a band like My Ticket Home who makes an album like that, and then it sort of gets overlooked and devalued a little bit, like in the moment. And like I think people obviously love it. Like you and I are sitting here and I said it and you're like, yes, it's so good. But the vast majority of people I don't think understand.
Yeah. Or have just never heard it.
Yeah. Like didn't know how good that album was for the time. So anyway, like point being, it's like, you know, I'll jam an album, you know, like that for like a month straight. And I'll be like, I only want to listen to heavy music. That's it. And then there's some months where I'm like, I don't feel like listening to music hardly at all. I need to listen to people talk. Yeah. And it's like, it's so weird because it's just like this constant cycle where I'm like, cool, like indie rock for these couple weeks is all I'm in, or you know, I'll throw on like my slow, you know, Spotify playlist that's just like super chill, like vibey songs for a little bit. I always go through that same exact cycle.
I do the same exact thing, man. And like, I will get really obsessed with like a certain artist for a while, you know, or a certain band or something. And that is all I will fucking listen to for like 2 weeks. And then I'm like, all right, I'm out of this now and I'm going to move on to something else. And usually it just happens. And I don't know if it's because I look at music throughout my everyday life as kind of just the soundtrack to my life, whatever I'm feeling that day, you know? And just because I'm listening to heavy music doesn't mean I'm upset or something. Like, dude, I'd be fucking smiling in my car like the shit slaps, you know? Of course, yeah. So like, but, oh man, albums like that. I really wish, cause they're from here, actually. Yes, yeah. And they haven't done anything in so long. I can't imagine they're making very much money.
I don't think they're a band anymore. Yeah. I think they're done. But the vocalist.
Head Cave?
Yes, yeah. I was gonna say. I just found out that he was making music under a different thing, probably like 2 months ago or something. And I was like, oh, sick! Like,
it's good too.
It fills that void like a little bit. Like it's a little heavier, a little bit more in your face. I feel like. But I uncovered that and I was like, okay, this sort of like makes me feel like a little, it's filling that void a little bit, which is also weird that, not to make this a whole like scene music podcast, there's enough of those. But it's also weird that, I mean, they recorded like an entire album that never got released. Like, do you know that?
Yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah. Like, cause Strangers Only was like 2013 and then the next one.
Unreal.
It was like a couple years later. Also very dope, but a very different sound.
Yeah. I was obsessed with that album.
I love it.
I'm a sucker for like the Deftones, like 90s, like grunge, but modern new metal kind of thing.
100% with you. But a lot of people were like, wait, this isn't like the heavy, this isn't. And apparently there was a bridge album between those that was like kind of an infusion of them. I think they dropped like a song from it or like a demo or something.
Through the Needle's Eye, I think that's the song I'm talking
something
about.
Like that. They were like, hey, like here's kind of what the other stuff would have sounded like, which to me I'm like, why not just like release that?
You might as
album
well
repeat. Like
if it's good.
Like, I understand like if you're not a band anymore, you don't have to tour, and I'm not saying marketing and freaking business side. I'm saying just as a music side. Yeah. I'm sure the songs are good, even if they are sitting and they're like, we didn't release it for a reason. It's like, dude, I guarantee people who like your music are probably going to like it.
Absolutely.
And it's like, just put it out for fun. It's like, I'm wondering if there's ever going to be a day where they're like, hey, remember that thing from like, that was supposed to be in like 2016 or whatever? Yeah, here it is. Like, it's on Bandcamp for $5.
I hope so.
Like, I think that'd be fun.
Really hope so.
I think that'd be very fun.
Something that's crazy about like bands like that for me is, you know, they're super unknown. They're not famous at all or anything, but you know, I'm just some fucking guy. But I remember times in my life that I very specifically remember, you know, memories and you know, moments in my life that I've been through based off that song or that album or whatever. Like if I turn it on, I'm like, oh man, and like when I was like obsessed with this album when I was doing this and I was, you know, seeing this person and I was living here in this shithole and all of that, you know, and it's just weird to think that there might be people like that for me that, you know, because I'm not famous or anything, like I still work a full-time job, like I'm just a normal guy, but a lot of people have heard my music and I wonder, you know, if people have that kind of connection to it, which is interesting and makes it worth it.
It's funny. I might blow your mind a little bit. I might be one of those people.
Really?
So, I mean, we've chatted a little bit of backstory. We've chatted before. We've met up before. We were talking more business at that point in time. But I think I've told you, like, huge fan of the Hunting Project.
That's dope, man.
I love the music. And this is actually a really good segue into, you know, because at the beginning of our whole music talk there, you were talking about how you get influenced to make music, which I would love to dive into because To me, the Hunting Project is a very unique band. Now, I'm sure that somebody can listen to it. You can find comparisons in anything. Somebody can listen to it and be like, this just sounds like this. To me, when it first popped up, I was like, this sounds like nothing else that I listen to. And I love it because of that. I have listened to this, basically like the album, or is it EP or album?
Yeah, it's an album.
It's
got
an
10
album.
songs.
I've listened to that a multitude of times.
That's awesome.
And it's in like, there's a handful of songs that are on like playlist rotation that like, I feel like I hear a Hunting Project song nearly every day.
That's awesome, dude. That's so crazy.
So I say all that not to be like, bro, like it's so sick, blah, blah, blah. But to say like, for sure, pat yourself on the back because the music is unique. The music is fun and it's interesting and there's a certain dynamic to it.
Yeah.
Now I bring all that up to say, where does the sound, I know this is a very specific question, but I want you to kind of paint a broad picture or whatever you want to do, but where does the Hunting Project come from? Because you know, you're sitting and you're like, I go through these different vibes of what I like to listen to and then how that influences what you write. And I guess that's the question is like, how does it influence when you make music? Like, do you go in and out of modes when you're like, this is the type of stuff I want to make, or this is the type? And I'm also, I know I keep throwing, like being like, hey, here's the question. Now I'm going to stack a 19 more on top of it. But when I listen through Hunting Project album, it's dynamic.
Yeah.
There are songs that are a little more vibey and chill. There's those songs that are like the radio, like in your face, like bouncy, like kind of remind me of like Green Day or something like that. I feel like you've like captured a multitude of sounds in that. So this is my final question. What's your process of making music like? How does that relate to how you listen to music?
So the first album and the new stuff that I just dropped, vastly different experiences, vastly different writing experiences, vastly different recording experiences. So during the first album, it was me and a couple other guys, me and mainly Joey, who you met.
Yeah.
So I'm actually continuing it as a solo project. So the new stuff I did all on my own. Joey is a fucking great guy. I'm actually going to California with him tomorrow.
Nice.
So we're going to go visit
awesome.
some of the boys out in Santa Cruz. Two of our best friends live there, and it's going to be great. I've never even been on a plane before, dude.
Oh,
so
that's super dope.
I'm
nice.
pretty fucking stoked.
Hell
Yeah. So he might be listening at some point. What's up, bro?
Yes.
So, we're still great friends. We hang out all the time. We're just pursuing different things in life, really. So during the first album, The Hollowing, we recorded that in Orlando at the Audio Compound with that's like the A Day to Remember like studio and everything. And it was, there's a lot that I would change about that album, to be completely straightforward, and which is interesting to me because it performed like really well. And, I think it got over like 2 million streams on Spotify, and like we had never done anything before, which is, I just found that really interesting.
Yeah.
I'm grateful for it. But so the writing process at that point, I was trying to write more. One, I was very underprepared to go into Orlando, extremely underprepared. I think because we were trying to save up the money for it. So we were like, flipping cars and because one of the guys was the mechanic, Sid. So we were like, trying to make the money to go record the album. And during all that, I guess I forgot to write the fucking album. So a week before, I'm like freaking out, like, dude, like half of these songs suck. So I had to just dive in and try and, write something. And I didn't really know what I was doing at the time when it came to songwriting, because I'd never been the lead songwriter before for anything. I'd always been a guitarist, and I'd never really been confident in my songwriting abilities, let alone singing. I ended up being the singer just because there's no one else to do it, pretty much. So I was like, all right, I guess I'll be that guy. But the content of the first album felt like I was writing not for myself necessarily, but for like a band of other people. So I didn't really talk too much about like my personal life on that. And I crafted the sound in just a very weird way. It was just, during that time, it was me pretty much coming up with riffs and stuff on guitar, doing voice memos on my phone, and bullshitting some lyrics about something that had been on my mind or whatever. We would, have conversations and, trying to find things to talk about. And just the overall process of that album was very unorganized, very unorthodox, and without a clear intention of what I was exactly trying to do. And I feel like that's why if you listen to it, you'll hear a lot of different vibes and stuff on the album, which I'm always going to do that. I don't want to hear the same song 12 times in a row.
Yeah, to me, that's cool for there to be, songs that maybe almost don't sound like they should be on the same album.
Exactly.
I like that.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah. And I wanted to do that again, but with the intention of doing that a little bit better. So the second time around. So yeah. So the first album we recorded in Orlando, it was a good experience. It was a learning experience for sure. I will say, just to be straightforward, who knows if any of those guys will ever hear this or anything, but it was a lot of fucking money. It was like $8,000, right? I don't have very much money. Me and the boys were broke as shit, and so it was a big thing to spend all that money to do that. And I kind of I got along with everyone there very well, but I kind of felt like it wasn't for the music. It was I kind of felt like it was just a paycheck. You know what I mean? And I've had that experience many times before, and maybe that's partially why I'm always sketch about working with other people, because I do this because it's literally just at the core of who I am. It always has been. It's just who I am. I just fucking love making music, dude. I have to. And if I don't, I get super depressed because that's just what I've always done, and I want to do that. So the first album, I think it was 19 when we did it. 19 or turning 20. And yeah, it was a weird experience in a good way. It was a learning experience. And the biggest takeaway that I learned from it is you do not need a $5 million studio and all this stuff to make something good. Because when I listen back to that album and I listen to the new stuff, there's no comparison. One, I think my writing process got a lot better the more that I've done it and the more that I've understood how to write a hunting project song. And also going into the new stuff, since it was just me, I felt a lot more comfortable just writing about my own personal life and not having to write about social issues or anything like that. I was just I'm just going to write about what I have going on. Because right now I have a lot of shit to say. And that's not always the case, because sometimes I'm I don't know what to talk about. I don't know what to write about, But this time around, I had so much go on through the past year. I hadn't been making music at all because I was fucked up from these car accidents, and I'll tell you that story in a minute. But the new stuff that I just released, I recorded with this dude, Will Carlson, in his basement. You know Will?
Yep. So I'm close with Will. He's a friend of the show. He'll be on the show at some point.
Really?
So, yep, very close with Will.
Fucking love that guy, man.
Will rules.
Just to put that out there. Yeah. He is so damn talented, man. Yeah. And the best thing about him was he genuinely cares. After I recorded in Orlando, it took months for them to get it back to us, and like a long ass time, and it was really frustrating because we paid money up front and it was supposed to be back within a month, and then it's just never hear from them, and I felt like I was being annoying reaching out about it,
about your art. Yeah, and that's a weird way to feel, right?
It was a weird feeling, and it just didn't feel like it was really cared for. But me and Will, I talked to him yesterday. He cares what happens with this stuff. He cares how it performs. He legitimately cares about me as a person, which is amazing, and you don't find that very often. And I have so much respect for all that group of people. Lee Albrecht, Johnny Frank, that dude is amazing. Bill Murray is so cool. Fade to Gray, we actually recorded with Johnny.
Oh, that's fun. Okay.
Yeah, and the last song on that first album, Emerge, we recorded with Lee. And if you listen to it, you can just hear how much better those two songs sound compared to the rest of the album. Next time you listen through it.
Yeah, I'll have to dig in and, yeah. Especially
my vocals. The way that those guys go about doing vocals, I love the way they do it because I don't particularly like my voice. I don't hate it by any means, but I wish I had Sam Carter's voice or some shit, So I just really like the process of recording with Will and Johnny and all those guys because I feel like we do it for the same reasons, we do it because it's just what we do and it's just who we are, Yeah.
Well, I think that's so much of creative work in general.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a whole topic for a whole other podcast, but I feel like finding those people you truly connect with and it's okay to have worked with anybody that maybe that connection was off a little bit because you still made something in the end. Something was still creative. An idea was still, made, and it's going to leave you with a certain taste in your mouth, and it's either good or it's bad. And you're like, okay, now I'm learning from this. And I feel like especially in the music industry, people go through those learning phases so much. I mean, like on my end of stuff with the music industry side of things is like, whether I'm designing a release campaign for somebody or directing a music video for them, I've heard those stories a billion times of like, well, we could do this music video, but like the last music video we got done, we got ripped off and this happened and that happened. And it's like, well, you also have to understand that not everybody's like that. Exactly. And just like you were explaining, those are the trials and tribulations you have to go through. And are there smarter ways that you can maybe prepare yourself and maybe not have to have those failures? Of course, but it's a good chance you're always going to run into something, and it's what you learn from it then. Exactly. Are you learning that like, oh, well, paying for video sucks? That's not the lesson to be learned. Yeah. It's that process that we worked with that person or group or whatever wasn't how we need our art to be made, because somebody else could go shoot a video with that person or record an album with those people and be like, this was the best thing I've ever done in my life. Yeah. And it's just, it all relates, and it comes down to how you want to capture and create your art. And when you can find those people, you can find that team who is like, oh yeah, you get it. You not only get like my sound and my feeling and my emotion and my energy and all that sort of stuff, but you get why I want to do this. Exactly. I think alignment is huge in that aspect. And it's something that a lot of people don't think about. I think most people just go to like a price tag and how quickly something can get done.
Or a name.
Or the name value. That's the next thing I was about to say is like, oh, X person worked with X band and blah, blah, blah. That means they're so much cooler. And like, pulling back the curtain here a minute, but, and like, I'm not trying to be negative, but like, folks, the amount of people that have told me they've shot a video with cool dude who shot X scene bands, blah, 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 and they felt like that they were used and they felt like they were underappreciated and all this sort of stuff. I've been told that a lot. I've heard a lot of those stories, and like, it just happens. That doesn't mean that I'm better than the other video director or anything like that. It just means our processes are different. So you as a musician, it's incredibly important, and it's awesome for me to be hearing like, yeah, I can identify that. And I found the team of people that can work with me right now and help me capture what I needed to capture. Yeah. And to be honest, that could change at some point again.
It probably will.
You know what I mean? Like, it is okay to work with different people as you work through these different levels and different chapters in life. I'm going on an entire rant, but just to say that, like, I think aligning with the people you're working with is incredibly important. Just like, you mentioned, Joey not being a part of the project anymore. It's like, you said there's no hard feelings or anything. It's just, you could identify like, hey, what we want out of this or what we want to put into it, that might not align anymore. Yeah. And that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, it's so awesome that we're still able to have such a great friendship. Like, we hang out all the time, like literally all the fucking time. And, he's a brother to me. And Joey is one of those people, like, that guy can do anything. He's so good at so many different things. Like now, he's like a social worker. So he's legitimately like helping children, and he's going to be an engineer. So like, there's no doubt in my mind he's not going to do some crazy shit with his life, That's so cool. And because music came into his life a little bit later. He was actually like a professional hockey player. I don't know if you knew that.
Oh, no, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's so sick at hockey. Like, he literally is like sick at everything he does. So like, yeah, super cool that we're still great friends and everything. I'm stoked to go to California with them and see the fucking boys, But yeah, back to the first album, it was an $8,000 lesson. That's the way that I like to think of it. And it was by no means a failure, because it connected with a lot of people, and those songs still get streamed like crazy for some reason. And I find that really interesting, because I listen back to some of them, I'm like, oh, I can't even listen to this, because like, I really wish I would have changed that part, or, but it's easy to nitpick your own stuff.
Yeah. Well, and sorry to interrupt you, but like, isn't that just kind of like being a creative?
Oh yeah.
Because like, there's so many things that I've done where I'm like, I can't believe anyone's ever looked at this or listened to this, because this is just the dumbest thing. And it's like, no one notices those things except for us.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Nobody knows those things. Nobody knows if the freaking lighting for this podcast isn't perfect, or no one notices if I blank on what to say for 30 seconds. And because in my mind, I'm like, oh my God, they just like, I sound like an idiot. That's so dumb. Nobody knows. Like, nobody knows our mistakes except for us.
Yes.
Unless it's, of course, a gigantic
big
mistake.
one.
You blow up a building or something. That's a big mistake.
Everyone's probably going to know.
Yeah. People might know about that. But those small artistic mistakes, it's only noticed by people like the ones that are doing it. And there's like this saying, and I can't remember, I don't know who said it, where it popped up, where it comes from. And at first, when I first heard it, I was like, wait a second, I don't know if I like that. But when I actually thought about it, I was like, no, that's great. And all the saying is nobody cares.
Yeah.
And that's actually a good thing.
Yeah.
Nobody cares. So it's not, dude, nobody cares about your music.
Yeah.
It sucks. It's not that. It's, guess what? Nobody cares.
If you
that means
fuck up,
you can do whatever you want. Like you can fuck up. You can make those failures. You can try and fail and try again. And it's like, that is a thing that I have learned to constantly remind myself is, even though the negative side of nobody, like, oh, damn it, nobody cares, like that creeps up all the time. That's a hard battle. Yeah. Always.
Especially doing what we do, because you need people to care in order to make a living.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. But it's like when you can look at it from that, creative side, the more artistic side or whatever it is of, nobody cares.
Yeah.
So I can maybe try this new thing. And if it doesn't work or I don't like it, then, well, nobody cares.
Yeah.
Like it's you can get away with it.
It was my mistake.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like that's like the art of, I think, being a growing artist of any form.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And to kind of go off that, this I don't know. I know a lot of artists, and no hate on thinking this way. Maybe they actually do feel that way, but I know a lot of artists that are like, I do this for you guys, I do this for the fans, blah, blah, blah. And like, honestly, like straight up, like that is not why I do this. Like, I really hope people like my music. Like, I feel like it's my purpose in this world to share my music with people. But if I'm hyper focusing on like a mistake or something, I'm not focused on it because I'm like, 100,000 people are going to hear this and they're going to hate it. And I'm like, fuck, I could have done that better. Like, and I want to for me, and I do this for me because I have to. I have to get it out some way. And usually that's with music, and I can actually say though, that with the 3 songs that I just released, for the most part, there's nothing I change about them.
That's awesome.
And that's a rare.
Those are rad songs also, by the way.
Thanks,
don't know if I said that yet, but dude, I love the new songs as well.
Thanks so much, man.
Yes.
Yeah, I put so much into them, and like I said, the writing process was completely different. I wrote all those songs in a basement, a grimy basement, half like concussed as hell, and it kind of just came together, really. And I didn't even know what I was going to do with them at first, because I didn't know if I was going to be continuing the hunting project. I didn't know where they were going to go. I just needed to do something, because I had so much to get out, man. I had so much to say.
Okay, so I want to dig into that.
Yeah.
I want to jump into that, because I want to kind of know, like, what do you mean when you say I had so much to get out?
Yeah.
Because there was also a gap between, Hunting Project, like even from the outside, I was like, oh, this must not be a band anymore.
Yeah.
Because there was a gap of time.
A big gap. Yeah. But it was never addressed either. I didn't tell anyone, really. Until after the fact.
I'm not going to spoil anything. I want to hear it from you. But, a recent caption you shared in releasing this new, collection of music shed some light on a lot of stuff that happened during that time frame, which I'm like very interested in knowing all of that sort of stuff.
It was crazy, man.
I'll tell you. It seems like you might have went through a handful of things, which would make sense as to you being like, I had a lot to say and I needed to make some new music.
Yeah, absolutely. So the first album came out in November of 2019. Literally a week after the album came out, I was on my way to work. I work at a hospital, that's also something I want to talk about because it's pretty fucking crazy working there. But I was on my way to work and I was on the highway. I was going 70, and it was like a freak accident, man. Like the control arm on my car snapped, and I was going 70 miles per hour, and I started to spin, and I literally flipped onto my side and then fell back down. I didn't lose consciousness or anything, and I was like, holy fuck, what just happened? And I was sitting there, and the first thing I did was, I called my dad, and I was like, hey, can you give me a ride? I just got in a fucking car accident. And, a cop came by, and he's, asked me if I was okay. And I was like, yeah, I think I am. I think I'm fine. So I didn't go to the hospital or anything. On almost went into work, but I was like, I think I'm gonna go home because I felt like really tired immediately. So I went home and I slept for like 3 hours. I was like, okay, the next day I was like really sore, didn't have too much going on. Then the next day after that, dude, I woke up and I could barely remember who I was. Like I had a splitting headache, but it wasn't just a headache. Like forming a thought, like it was impossible. Like forming a memory, like I knew my name was Cole, but like I was not here, dude. I was somewhere else, and I was really nauseous and I couldn't really do anything. And I was like, "There's what's going on here?" At first, I was like, "Am I like getting sick or something?" And so I ended up going to like an urgent care or whatever, and the doctor was like, "You probably have a mild concussion. Take it easy for a week. Drink a lot of water. You'll be fine." So I took it easy for a couple days, and I drank a lot of water, and then I started feeling a little bit better. And I worked 12-hour shifts at the hospital, and I had my schedule. I had 3 12s in a row, and then my uncle's wedding where I was supposed to play while his bride walked down the aisle, and I haven't even learned the song yet. And so I do these 3 12-hour shifts, and I was feeling like shit and everything, and I went to this wedding, and dude, the next day, I was so fucking miserable. I've never felt so bad in my entire life.
This day after the wedding?
The day after the wedding.
After you've worked and then went to the wedding.
Yeah,
Okay.
I just like overexerted myself with it. And so from there on, it was bad. I couldn't do anything. I ended up going and seeing like a concussion specialist, and they do all these different tests on you, not like, CT scans or MRIs or anything, but they will be like, all right, remember these 5 numbers, 6, 3, 4, 5, 7. And I would be like, 4, like my short-term memory completely gone, completely just not there. So that led to it was about a 7-8 month recovery, because it only got worse for a couple weeks. And
really?
So when you're concussed, man, you can't do anything. You can't watch TV. You can't read. I couldn't even get up and go on a walk, or I'd fucking vomit. Like I laid in my bed and stared at the ceiling for months. That's all I could do. And it was horribly depressing. Like I couldn't do anything that I cared about. Couldn't go to work. I couldn't spend time with anyone. I literally was just staring at the ceiling for months on end. And eventually, it just would not get better, because a concussion typically lasts about 1 to 3 weeks. And once it gets outside of that, it's kind of, they're just like, you'll get better when you get better, because there's nothing they can do, because your brain essentially is just swollen. And a lot of cells in your brain die, and so like it will make you super depressed, because you don't have your serotonin levels are all whacked out, your dopamine's all jacked up, so I ended up having to do like neurological therapy. So it was basically like physical therapy for your brain. So I would go in a couple times a week. Obviously I couldn't drive. I had to get a ride there. Being in the car was the most miserable thing. Just the motions, like it just made me want to vomit. And, I had to do it was hell, because, the exercises, I'm a very, very like stimulated person. I'm always doing shit. My brain is always working like crazy. And the most I could do to help myself was you'd have this string and have multiple beads on it, and you would just divert your eyes to each one. And I would have to do that, or look at a letter on the wall. And I had to retrain my brain how to properly work. And, so that was about 7 months. Like the last 2 months, I had started getting better, and I had started going kind of back to work, doing like an hour or 2 shifts. After that, I would be absolutely miserable again. I had some really good friends. They, come and check on me, and, but there's only so much I could do. I laid there with ice packs in my head just all day, all the time. So I finally get over that. And like once I was better, I still wasn't back to normal. I still felt like shit all the time. I was just kind of managing. So that happened in November. I think I finally was starting to feel better around like June, around my birthday.
Can I interrupt to ask a question super quick?
Yeah.
How is that a mild concussion?
Oh yeah, the doctor was very wrong. But one, I made it worse, right? Because I have a lot of feelings on that, because I felt like the guy just didn't give a shit. It was some urgent care doctor. He was clearly unhappy with, probably working in an urgent care, being a doctor. I don't know, but
I mean,
I feel like I was
misled.
misled.
You gotta like to do. It's a thing you gotta like to do. You gotta like to help people.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that guy doesn't, but you can't let. That's a job for sure. You can't let your off day.
Affect someone else.
Else's. Anyway.
So, and at first it might have been a mild concussion, but because I kept doing stuff, I made it worse.
Okay.
Because if you like, the reason you can't watch TV and stuff is one, because it would make me feel like I'm dying, because your brain just can't handle it. But two, because the more you do, the more you make your brain work, the worse it's going to get. And like, if I would have just kept pushing myself, God knows how bad it could have gotten. It would have been terrible. I physically couldn't have done it anyways, because even walking upstairs, man, I like felt like I was going to pass out or something. I couldn't even go for a walk down my driveway for the first couple months because I just was so, I guess, sick. Really is what it felt like. Just constant dizziness and splitting headaches, and sound and light was misery. So all I really did was listen to audiobooks and podcasts. I couldn't even play guitar, maybe for like 10 minutes a day at some point, but I fucking sucked because I'm like concussed out of my mind, So I finally get over all that shit, and I'm going back to work and everything, and I eventually get back to my life, I'd say fully in about August, July.
That's like close to a full calendar year.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the first half of it was much worse. The second half, some days in the second half of it, I feel almost normal. And then I go do something. Like I would all right, I'll watch a 20-minute episode of like New Girl or something. And then I'm like, I'm dying right now. I feel just as bad as I did 2 months ago. And that was really frustrating because, I was feeling better at one point, but I still couldn't do anything that I wanted to do. So like at first I just wanted to lay around and sleep and everything. And, I was sleeping like 15, 16 hours a day. But once I started getting a little bit better, then I had started having a lot of trouble sleeping, which is apparently really common. So I would, I was feeling decent, but not great. And if I did anything, it would make me feel terrible. So I was in kind of this weird like void area. And I would just lay awake for 4, 5, 6 hours at night, not being able to sleep, because it makes you not be able to sleep. Like once you are in like that weird middle stage of being somewhat healthy, but not, So then I got put on this stuff called Amitriptyline, which is actually an antidepressant, but they found that it can be helpful for concussions and helping you sleep. So that kind of fucked up like my mood and everything, and I felt like a zombie when I first started taking that, which didn't feel much worse than I already felt. But that being said, when you're on something like that, like you have to wean off of it or you go through withdrawal. So I was on these, I'd never been on antidepressants or anything before. So even once I got better, then I had to go through weaning myself off that.
Another phase of trying to, that, and I know there's still more to this story.
Yeah.
Like, okay, so even during that time frame, like, man, like what's going through your mind every day other than like, I am in pain, like, what are you thinking every day?
I'm literally thinking, fuck my life, dude, this sucks. Okay, but I'm also like, I guess it, like, obviously things can always get worse. That's something that I'm like, shit can always get worse, So I went through a lot of different phases of emotions around it. I was depressed as hell the entire time. Because just not being able to do anything. I'm a very active person, and even if I'm not doing active things, I'm just chilling, like playing video games or something. Like I just got to be doing something. So laying in bed all day with no plans at all, nothing to look forward to for weeks, for months, was really hard for me. And I had to like teach myself to drive again. I had to teach myself to literally do everything again. And so, I was very unhappy. I also put on a solid amount of weight because I wasn't burning any calories throughout the day, and pretty much the only thing I could do was eat junk food, really, so that was the only thing to look forward to.
Yeah, I was going to say, when you're in that state, like the only thing that would be, I feel like I would be stoked to do is like, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to eat this ice cream or whatever, pizza, whatever. Yeah. Like,
and I didn't give a fuck either. And like, usually I'm someone that really cares about my body and my health for the most part.
Of course,
but during that time, I just didn't give a shit about anything, man, because like between being concussed as hell made me not care, because I was like, I feel so terrible, I might as well I didn't care about anything. And I usually care about everything. I didn't even feel like myself, man. I could barely like remember who I was before that. And after a while, it got really just hard because I'm like, is this ever going to get better? Because after 5 months, dude, that's a long time to do nothing at all. And of course, I'm also feeling guilty about wasting my life, not being able to do anything, you know? And yeah, so I was not in a very good mental space during most of it. As it got near the end, I started, all right, I'm going to start cooking my meals and stuff throughout the day. Like that became something that I started looking forward to near the end. Once I was almost better, it would be like, all right, you know, I make this fire breakfast every morning. I'm going to make my bomb-ass lunch, and then I'm going to, you know, do my 5-minute cardio exercise that I'm allowed to do to, you know, try and train my brain. Because at some point, they're like, okay, you got to push yourself a little bit, but not too much. Because if you push too much, you're going to fuck yourself up. But if you just a little bit, because you gotta get your brain to kind of kick in gear, you know? So eventually I get better. I'm doing pretty good. I hadn't really been making much music at the time. I was dating someone, and it was a long distance relationship, so I didn't see her all throughout that. So yeah, I get better, and I think it was November that year, just a couple months later, November 2020, because the original accident happened November 2019. November 2020, I find out that my partner at the time had been unfaithful. We've been together for 2 years, that really fucked me up because I never would have guessed that. And, you know, so we're trying to work it out and everything, and I have a lot of feelings on the matter, and I'm like, what is going on? At the time, I just felt like the world was just crushing down on me, you know, so I'm feeling a little cynical and everything, and I'm really upset about that because I'm a very emotional person, you know, and that's something I love and hate about myself. But in the end, I take it. I like the way that I am. But I was really trying to figure out what to do about that whole thing, and, you know, I know so many people that when they're like, oh, you know, your girlfriend or whatever cheating on you, like, fuck them, like, whatever. It's not that simple. Like, there's so many emotions and feelings around a situation like that, you know, and then I would kind of look at her life and all the stuff that she's been through, and I'm like, well, maybe she made these decisions because of that and this and blah, blah, blah. So, like, I'm trying to deal with all that, and I'm on my way home from work. I'm sitting in a red light, and I got fucking blindsided. Did it again, man. Another one. It's like, and I drove home after that, and I kind of had a meltdown. And my friend Vic was there, and he was like, you know, kind of calmed me through. But I was like, because I went home and I was like, I feel it. I have another fucking concussion, dude.
Damn it.
I was like, I can feel it. And like, I told my mom, I was like, I think I have because it was just a fender bender. You know, she hit me pretty hard, but not like I didn't lose consciousness. It just kind of jolted me forward, you know. And but I kept telling everyone, I was like, I'm not okay. Like, I don't feel okay. And everyone it was like, Cole, like, you got a lot of anxiety about it because you just went through all that. It's only been a couple months later. Like, you're probably fine. Nah, dude. Next day I woke up, I immediately knew. I'm like, fucking happened again. So that time I went to the emergency room because it was like, I didn't go last time. I don't know what they're going to be able to do, but I would like to at least know if they could like run like a CT or something on me. They weren't really able to do anything. They were just like, yeah, you probably have one. And then I went and saw my concussion doctor, who I absolutely fucking love. Dr. Fuller, shout out, my guy. But I went and saw him the next day, and he went through all the stuff, and he's like, you got another one, man. Wow. So I can't even express how just miserable that was, because I had all this emotional stuff going on with my relationship crumbling, and then I just got concussed again for the second time within that year. So I was just so pissed off, and just like, I could not believe I was dealing with that again, man. It was, I just couldn't believe it. And so, you know, throughout that second time around, it was a lot of the same. Thank God it didn't last as long that time, which I thought it was going to be longer, based on having one earlier in the year, because once you get one, it's easier to get another, and they get worse usually as it goes. Thankfully, the second one wasn't quite as bad, but it still took about 4 months. It happened December 16th. I think I finally was back to work full time in like April, you know?
Is that April
April of 2021.
So
very recently.
Just recently.
Yeah, just a couple months ago. You know, and obviously I was still feeling like shit throughout, like trying to get back to work and everything. But during the second one, I'm also trying to deal with, you know, what am I going to do about my relationship? Because we were trying to work it out, but it just, it was not going to happen, man. Because, you know, once that trust has been broken between someone, the amount of problems that causes is ridiculous, you know. And I'm also literally fucking brain dead trying to figure all this stuff out. So I've been curious for a long time about therapy. I've never felt like it's something like I need this. It's always been something I'm like, I'm curious about that, you know. And through my work, they offer like 10 sessions or something through, you know, just working in healthcare. So I ended up seeing a therapist throughout that time. He was such a great guy. It was like really great for me and helped a lot. Just have, you know, someone to talk to that knew what they were talking about. And, you know, kind of, we had a lot of conversations about, because I blame myself a lot for the stuff within the relationship. And, you know, he kind of just convinced me, like, or made me understand, like, wait, I'm not a shitty person, you know? Because I always get wrapped up in that, like, you know, how is this my fault? What did I do? Whatever. But in the end, I decided to end it. And I really hope she's doing well. I really, truly do. If she's listening to this, I'm sure she's doing good. You know, I think it just came down to, she just had a lot of personal stuff that she needs to, you know, work on. Mm-hmm. And that once that came into our relationship, like it fucked everything up. So I ended up ending it while I was concussed as hell, which was very hard to do, to even form the thoughts, because I ended up like writing a letter or something, which was what my therapist had suggested. And, you know, so I took some time and I did that, and it was a mess. And like being stressed out when you're concussed just makes it worse.
Oh, dude, that's mental and physical pain at the same exact time. Like,
yeah. So getting in, like, you know, arguments or whatever with the significant other while I was horribly fucking injured was probably the worst thing that could have been going on for me. But yeah, you know, I ended up ending it, and I was miserable, and it was all I could think about, because I can't do anything during the day other than stare at the ceiling and think about, holy shit, my life just like that crumbled, you know?
Yeah.
And so I remember kind of hitting a crossroads where I was like, all right, I can either sit here and I can feel fucking terrible for myself, throw myself a pity party, and, you know, just be miserable, or I can, you know, when I get back, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to live my life. Because that's all I wanted to do. Like, I was just thinking about all the simple stuff I was missing out on, you know? Like, even stuff that typically I would maybe put me in a bad mood, like, you know, going to work a 12-hour day or whatever, you know? So, like, when I got back, like, I was just hell-bent on, I just want to enjoy my life, man. I want to enjoy my life. I want to do things that I enjoy. I want to be a good person. You know, I want to make music. And, like, I want to take myself too seriously. I want to take myself too seriously. I'm just a fucking guy, man. I'm just kind of a goofball, you know? So I finally started getting better second time around. And even when I was really concussed, I started, you know, working on music again, and just kind of writing and everything. And I very slowly kind of started writing those songs, and would kind of just use that to deal with everything, you know? And I went back to work, and it was good to be, you know, making money again a little bit. Not that I make much, but it was good to just be out again. And I really tried to attack every day, and I still do, because it was a life-changing thing, man. It really changed my perspective on everything, and how, you know, you find yourself getting annoyed with someone or whatever, and like you allow it to get wrapped up in that emotion. Like, I've just been hell-bent on just being a positive person when I go throughout my day now, you know? Even because I work in the emergency room, so I see a lot of crazy shit and a lot of interesting people. But I've noticed that just going in with the attitude that I have, and of just wanting to enjoy every day of my life, has really affected a lot of the people around me. And I get compliments all the time on my positive attitude. And people ask me why I'm like that, and I usually say that's just the kind of person I want to be. And I've always been a very positive person, but ever since that happened to me, and I was like, all right, this is definitely the lowest low I've ever experienced in my life. No doubt about it. This is the worst my life has ever been. So if I can get that low and come out of it and do something good with it, and like making music, or even just getting back to my life, like I want to be grateful for that. So whenever I get upset or pissed off about something little or something, I'm like, hold on, man. Like, why are you getting upset about that?
Yeah.
Like,
I think it's super important to have those reminders. And, unfortunately, if it comes from a place like where yours came from of giving you that perspective, but I think that that's hugely important in any facet or any way of life or anything is to have those like little reminders of like, okay, listen, like, is this really that big a deal?
Yeah.
And in your case, I mean, you have the ultimate like perspective check of like, well, I'm not laying in my bed only being alone with my thoughts that hurt to think.
Yes.
So it's not that bad.
Yeah.
So I guess this, sitting in traffic or you going into work today, like, or this argument or whatever, like, can't be that bad. Man, that is
pretty crazy, right?
Dude, I mean, like I said, I read that, the caption that was kind of like the return on, the Hunting Project social. And I was like, what is the, like, even from the caption, I was like, what is this story? And now hearing it, I'm like, man.
I hope I did a good job of explaining it.
Oh, dude, no. I mean, incredible job. And like, I don't even think we've mentioned, like, you were going through the second part of that during everyone else's 2020.
Yeah.
During pandemic. So like, man, at least there's probably a part of you that's like, well, I have to stay
missing out on
inside,
much.
so,
Yeah.
I'm not missing out on anything.
I work at a hospital though. I had to go to work anyways.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah. So getting back into that and seeing all the effects of that had on everyone.
Okay. So what was that like? I don't know.
At the hospital?
Yeah. I mean, during pandemic, like, what is it like working in a hospital during a pandemic?
Interesting. Yeah, very interesting. So things have calmed down a lot, But interestingly enough, at first there was like no one there at the hospital because they shut down like all the outpatient like surgeries and everything. So like anything that wasn't deemed like absolutely necessary, they just stopped doing.
Can I interrupt you for a second with a question? Pandemic was starting probably at the end of your healing from your last accident, or there been some time?
So the pandemic started in the middle of my first concussion because I remember hearing about coronavirus for the first time. Wait, let me think. Because pandemic started in early 2020, right?
Yeah, so I think it was like end of February is when people were like,
it's when it became a thing.
Maybe we shouldn't do some things.
Yeah.
And then lockdown happens like a month later or whatever.
Yeah, so I was still concussed during that when all that shit started going down.
Man.
Yeah.
Because that's even, I'm trying to think in my brain, I'm like, dude, like, you're sitting here like, I'm maybe hopefully starting to get myself back on track here and get my life, and then like life itself is like, actually, we're going to change completely. Like, here's the pandemic.
Yeah.
Like, damn. Okay,
and I was paranoid about getting COVID on top of being concussed as hell because my mom also works at the hospital.
Yeah.
So, she was around it all the time, every day. And I'm like, if I get sick on top of this, dude, throw me off a bridge.
I
man.
could not.
That's the last thing I need. That did not happen. I actually did get COVID though, last November, right before I got in the second accident.
Dude.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Dude, I've had some shit luck the past year, but
wow. Okay, sorry, I interrupted you as you were explaining more of like the hospital thing.
Yeah. It was interesting, man, and it still is. At first, like, everything was shut down, and like I was saying that thing about non-necessary stuff. Like, you could have like a crazy like ACL tear where you need surgery, and they canceled it. Like, you're not getting that. So imagine all the people that like needed like surgeries that weren't going to just keep them alive, but stuff that was like their quality of life, like walking around with a torn ACL because you can't get that surgery for the next 4 months because of COVID probably fucking sucked for a lot of people. Yeah. So at first it was like a ghost town because really the only people there were coming in because they might have COVID or like, they have some other severe shit going on. And there's like this whole like quarantine unit and like we had to get dressed in like full like PPE, so I had like the whole like jumpsuit thing on with like the mask, like
full
the N95, like the hazmat stuff. Wow. And, so there was all that. And it's different now because I wasn't working in the emergency room at that time. I was actually working a job that I fucking hated at the hospital, which it was just a desk job. So I kind of just got to see what was going on. But now, you know, people come into the emergency room with COVID-like symptoms, and they're quarantined and everything, and we keep them away from everyone else. But there hasn't been nearly as much of that. So like it has been on the decline, right, which has been good, obviously. Yeah. So it was very interesting, and obviously I've had a lot of uncomfortable conversations with people because of just the vastly different views on the matter, you know? So I met a lot of people like where I have to ask questions about COVID, or like, you know, I've gotten so many arguments about like, hey bro, I need you to put your mask on for me, man. Yeah. I cannot tell you how many times I've had some dude been like, oh, these fucking and I'm like, dude, I just work here, man. I make $15 an hour.
Yeah. You're also like, dude, I've had like 2 concussions in the last year. Like, I don't need this now.
Just wear the mask, man.
I had to relearn how to walk and drive. Like, just put your mask on, dude.
It's a very mild inconvenience, man.
Yeah, you know? For real though. I mean, literally. Like that's, man. Okay, so let me ask you this: Do you feel like, whether it's in your field of work, and I know you said, you know, in life it's changed your perspective. Do you think that things, you know, going through those concussions and then piling on a breakup and surviving a pandemic while all that stuff is happening, do you feel like it's changed how you interact with other people? Like when that person is sitting and like, fuck this mask, like, you know, of course there's a part of you that's like, stop being so fucking dumb. But do you find yourself like, not only I don't want this to be an inconvenience to me, so I'm not going to argue, but do you feel like has your perspective on maybe other people changed at all? Because you're like reminding yourself like, I was laying in bed unable to do anything. I don't know what this person is dealing with, so I'm just going to handle this how I can. Like,
I will say I'm pretty good at de-escalating situations when people get upset and stuff. I work at a hospital that's in it's the biggest hospital in Cincinnati, and it's in, you know, the emergency room. So we have a wide variety of people coming in for a lot of different reasons. So I've had to deal with a lot of people that you typically wouldn't have to deal with in that context, I guess. You know, I've dealt with a lot of aggressive people, and for every shitty person I've dealt with, I've met tons of amazing people, of course, amazing doctors, amazing nurses, really very interesting experience working there, especially having no desire to pursue it as my career, because I make music. That's what I'm going to do with my life. But if I'm going to work a job, I would like it to be something that I feel purpose in, you know, and like I can help people with.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm good at de-escalating situations, and I guess the way that I try to look at it is, if you could take anyone's life and you could put it on a timeline and you could look at everything that's ever happened to them, every experience they've ever had, literally everything that they've ever done, you would understand why they're acting like they're acting. Mm-hmm. Does that make it okay? Probably not.
Right.
But at least you can understand, you know? Yep. So I really try to make every single person I talk to a positive experience. I try to be genuinely empathetic and compassionate with people at the hospital, because I know no one wants to be there, you know, and a lot of people have some very severe stuff going on. And I'm sure a lot of these people have had a really bad fucking day. That sometimes though, man, like there's nothing you can do other than be assertive and kind of be a dick. Mm-hmm. I've had a lot of times where I've had to do that. I don't like doing that, but if you force me, I will. But I give everyone like the benefit of the doubt. I really try, you know, and a lot of times there's been many times where someone's been very aggressive towards me, and the way that I've handled it, at least I hope, they've either calmed down, or I've had a couple people like apologize to me afterwards, like, you know, I'm sorry, like just stressed out, like I got this going on with my mom, blah blah blah. And I'm like, it's all good, man. It's all good. You know,
I feel like I'm very similar in those ways, where like I can be extremely straightforward and stern, mm-hmm. but it's usually when I like know I need to be.
Yeah,
I'm never like, I'm not that person who like outwardly immediately is going to be like, you're stupid and this is stupid and this is why, so do it. Like, I'm definitely like, I like to play the empathy card first. I like to play like, okay, can I understand this? But once it tiptoes like over that line of like, okay, either you're not trying to understand this or you're not respecting my time or side or whatever, then I'm like, okay, then I'm just going to be straightforward and this is exactly how it's going to be, and let's just cut through the BS and get to the solution. Like, because I think that's super important, and something I learned over the last couple of years is like, you know, don't answer problems with more problems. Answer them with solutions.
Exactly.
And like ever since I ingrained that in my brain, whether it's a negative experience that's like an argument or opposing sides or like you were saying earlier, like a just annoying thing that I'm dealing with in my day or something, I'm always like, okay, like this is annoying, this is kind of dumb, but like, can we de-escalate the situation at all, or can I face this problem? What are some solutions here to maybe calm the situation down or get myself out of the situation or not let it affect me as heavily as it could be? Like, can I think of solutions for this rather than like just identifying this is stupid and you're stupid and this sucks and it's dumb and it's terrible? Like, because that's the easy route to go.
Oh yeah,
is easy. And I'm not saying don't identify when something sucks. Like 100% identify like this is stupid and this is what I don't like about it, or this is why I don't like this person who's involved. Like whatever it is, identify those things. But I have like tried to teach myself to immediately follow that up with like, okay, you can't just stay mad at it.
Yeah. So what are we going to do about it?
Yes.
You know,
like, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Like, is there a solution? And if the solution is very difficult, what are the steps that we do to get there? Like, so something that's interesting to me is like, you've explained that you're always trying to have like a positive perspective and all that sort of stuff. Have you always been like that? Like, have you always been a relatively like, and I know everybody kind of has like the angsty teen years where like we've all done, something that we're like, why would I do that? Yeah. But have you always been kind of more like positive perspective, like chill, like let's just see what happens? Or was that just like a recent years thing and it took like 2 concussions for you to be like, let's really be positive?
Yeah.
Like
it's I'm a type of person, I have high highs and I have low lows. But I'm aware of my low lows and I'm aware like, okay, you're being ridiculous, man. Like it's not that big of a deal, because I'm very prone to getting very wrapped up in people and very concerned with other people and just like, getting in a state of fucking frenzy over a girl or something, and I let things affect me deeply. So I've always had a very positive personality, talking to other people. I've always been very positive with other people and been a positive, hopefully influence, within my friend group and everything. But that doesn't mean I'm always positive towards myself or with my own thinking. I can get into very nihilistic, ways of thinking at times. And sometimes there's nothing you can do about it. Like I don't know how I would have tried to be positive during all the concussion shit, especially the second time around. It just wasn't going to happen. But what made life worth living again was making music during that time. And that's kind of the way that I like to look at it. Like you got to have things that give you purpose in life. You got to have a reason to live. And I feel like, unfortunately, a lot of people don't have that. And so I've always felt very lucky that the one thing that I've known for my entire life is I'm going to make music, whether it works or not. I highly doubt I'm ever going to be rolling in money with the type of music that I make and all the weird shit I'm going to do throughout my career. But I don't really care about that, like I want to be comfortable. And if anything, the biggest reason that I want money is so I can do crazier stuff with music and crazier projects and, hire all my friends to do stuff that I, want to do because I don't want to do it alone, So yeah, growing up, I definitely went through a lot of, just depressive stages and super highs, right? And right now, I feel like I'm doing really good, and it's funny because when I wrote the last batch of songs, I was the most miserable I've ever been, and they turned out, in my opinion, pretty fucking cool, because of that. So now I'm like, shit, I'm doing good. I'm not depressed right now. What the fuck do I write about, write about being happy? Yeah. So like right now I'm going in on the good vibes bangers, but, and I know life will fuck me over again at some point and I'll get to write another sad song. But until then, I'm going to write some good vibe stuff, So highs and lows, man. That's always how I've been. But when I'm interacting with other people, I've always been very positive, because I don't like being the person that ruins someone's day or something. Right.
So where does that come from growing up? So I guess literally like I'm asking like what was growing up like? Like what's family dynamic like? Like where does that sort of like always kind of going with the flow and trying to be positive, where does that come from? Are you taught that as you're growing up? Are you seeing it in family? Like take me back.
Yeah, probably my mom. My mom's a very positive person. We're very much alike with our demeanor and a lot of our mannerisms. My dad is kind of your classic, just like American dad, I love my dad very much. We have a good relationship, me and my parents. But yeah, I think my parents really instilled that in me, especially my mom. Like she's very much the same way. She's very well liked with anything that she does. She's very kind and compassionate and just very nice to everyone. And she's just nice to be around. I like being someone that's nice to be around, I hope. Hopefully other people think that. So I definitely feel like that comes from my mom, but I also just feel like it's kind of just who I am, I've just always cared very much about other people and cared very deeply about how I make other people feel and what I'm bringing into, others' lives. And it's also just how I want to be, I guess. And so I've kind of just always lived that way. And by any means, I've fucked up many times. I've been an asshole. I've unintentionally hurt someone or, not been truthful about things or, whatever. But I try to be as good as I can, and I try to be aware of myself and my actions. And I feel like now the older I get, it gets slightly more complex, but also easier to know what you yourself would do in that situation. Because I've been very easily influenced a lot throughout my life by other people, and like I said, I get very wrapped up in things. So I found myself doing things that I'm like, I don't exactly feel like it's me doing this or me making that decision. I've been very susceptible to, I guess, peer pressure and stuff like that because I have like a need or a want to be liked. But over the past couple years, I've gotten a lot more into mindfulness and just philosophy and stuff in general, and thought a lot more about the kind of person that I want to be, So I really try to do the right thing in every situation that I'm in. And I feel like, honestly, working at the hospital has taught me a lot about that because I've seen so much, man. I've seen so many people die. I've seen so many good things too. I've seen, babies born and families made and stuff like that. But I've seen a lot of people going through like the worst parts of their life. And that kind of just makes you think about your own life. And if it could end at any moment, which it clearly can, because I had 2 near-death experiences basically, like I hopefully will have lived it well,
Yeah.
So yeah, I think to some extent it's like a conscious decision, but in another way it's just who I am, and you can tell when people are being genuine, so I really do feel like that's just kind of who I am, and I'm sure it definitely stems from the way I was raised and everything. I feel like my parents raised me to be respectful of other people's feelings and everything. Or my dad's a little bit more blunt and abrasive, and my mom's a little bit more caring and like hold on, like how would that make them feel and stuff, So I can be abrasive if I need to, but yeah, it's kind of just how I go throughout my days, really.
I think that self-awareness part is huge.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's where a lot of people stop their growth, if that makes sense. Because like clearly we're all growing. Like clearly like who somebody was in high school is probably, I don't know, in some cases maybe, and not who they are as a 30-year-old adult or a 20-some-year-old adult. It's like I think about that all the time.
I do
think
too.
About like, because I feel like so much of what you're saying with like the way you think and the way you feel and the way you connect and all this sort of stuff, I feel like you and I are very similar. Mm-hmm. I think we are like drastically similar in that way. Where like I will, whether I want to or not, like my emotional heartstrings will just Spider-Man onto something or someone, and it's just like, nope, you're attached to this now, and you're gonna feel this certain way whether you want to or not. And it's like learning how to like cope with those things, but learning how to grow with those things and use them for more positive things, or not get so wrapped up in the wrong things. Because I mean, even growing up, something you said was kind of the peer pressure thing because you wanted to be liked. Like I feel like I did that all the time.
Yeah.
Now I had this odd wall that the stern part of me would stand up. Like for me, it was like drinking and stuff.
Yeah.
I never got into partying. I never got into like drugs, alcohol, any of that sort of stuff. That was always like, for some reason, my wall. Yeah. Where like even in high school when, that becomes the thing that you're going to do and you're going to go hang out at these parties and all your friends are doing it, I was always like, I don't care.
Not for me.
But for some reason, those same friends or situations or whatever, I would let every other aspect get to me in peer pressure of like, we're all mad at this person. I'll be like, we must be mad at that person. Yeah. Even though literally if I saw that person, I wouldn't be mad at them.
And you'd be nice to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I literally, and I wouldn't like lie. I would just be like, oh, hey, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, so-and-so is mad at you, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No,
I guess,
literally same.
And it's like that. It's like I always had that self-awareness of like, wait, I don't actually feel this way, or I don't actually think this thing. But it would stop at some point, and I would still do the things so that way I felt accepted or felt like oh yeah, this is kind of how my friends act. Like, oh, that girl doesn't like me, so I'm gonna be like, what a fucking bitch. You know what I mean? Like, because that's what people around me were doing, and I'm like, oh, that's how you're supposed to handle these situations. Even though my gut and heart was like, this doesn't feel right to you, actually.
Doesn't.
So it's like I would do those things, but then I would go do it my way too.
Yeah.
You know, of like, yeah, fuck her, like I don't give a shit. And then like a day later, I'm like, hey, can we actually just talk that out? Like, I don't think I actually, like, I don't know. Like, that was a mistake. That was dumb. And like, I think back to situations like that all the time where, I don't know if you feel this way, but like, there's so many things where I'm like, anybody who knew me 10 years ago needs to re-meet me.
Yep.
They literally don't know me. And I know like lately I've seen this thing floating around on the internet of like, isn't it wild that somebody has a version of you in their mind that does not exist anymore?
Yeah.
You know, it's like the person that somebody thinks that they know when they think of Cole or they think of Ross, it might be a different version than the ones that are actually living here today. It's like that's a shell of who, you know, you formerly were. And I think about that all the time, and I try not to get myself wrapped up in it, but like I'm also I've grown into such an overly emotional person where I'm like, I want to connect with everybody and I want to be friends with everybody. And even if I disagree with somebody or maybe do even feel like some sort of anger towards somebody, I'm still like, but that just immediately turns into like empathy. And I immediately am just like, man, that makes me like so sad.
Yeah.
And so I think about that all the time when I'm like, man, like how many people have a version of me from high school or even early 20s or literally even like 3 or 4 years ago. Yeah. Like how many people are left with a former shell of me in their mind of like, oh no, that's no, I remember Ross. Yeah. He was a dick to me in high school one time. Or, oh yeah, he thinks he's so cool because he started being fucking creative after high school and like thought he was so cool, when it's like, no, like that's not it at all. And like, I think about that probably too much where I'm like, I like wish I could talk to like literally everybody,
dude, same.
And like reconnect with them and be like, and not just so I can like save face and be like, listen, I don't suck. Hopefully you don't think that, like, cause that's a conceited thing to think, but more so I think back to like those friendships and people that I knew or used to be close with even in recent years and I'm not anymore. And I'm like, I just want to rekindle that friendship and I want to get to know you now. And I want you to get to know me now. It's not just like, hope you don't think I'm an asshole. Like, it's not that. It really is that, like,
it's interesting.
It's kind of like a new person.
Yeah.
Like, no, we really are both new people. And it's like, that's so interesting to me to, like, almost re-meet somebody.
Yeah. I feel like you are and you aren't. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like there's a lot of aspects of me that have always been that, you know, it's always just been who I am and how I am and how I talk to other people and everything. But no, man, I do not feel like the same person that I was in high school. I barely even fucking remember high school, to be honest. And wait, how old are you? I just turned 23.
I'm 28.
You're 28?
Yep, so a little bit older than you. Yeah.
So something that I have been thinking about a lot recently, I'm like, okay, so my mom's like 56, 57, you know. They've done what I've done twice.
Yeah.
And they've lived 20 years as an adult too, you know? Because like I feel like I'm over the past couple of years, like I'm an adult now, like I'm a grown man for the most part. But you know, I think about like, who the fuck am I going to be when I'm 50 years old? And that kind of scares me, you know? Like, am I going to be the same person? Am I going to be a lot wiser? Am I going to be jaded? I hope the fuck I'm not jaded, man.
Right.
You know, I don't want to be a bitter old boomer or anything. So, you know, that's something I think about very often, and I think about how different I am now, and I've, you know, had people reach out to me from, you know, years and years ago about, you know, music related stuff now, and like, you know, talk about how I was back then, and I'm just like, dude, you literally, like, I don't know you and you don't know me, but I would like to, like, I know you, but I'm just not who you think I am or who I used to be. And circling back to the thing where we were talking about how, you know, kind of the peer pressure of kind of like what you're saying, like if everyone's kind of teaming up on someone else and, you know, fuck that person or whatever, something I used to go with that so easily. But something that over the past, especially 2 years, I notice is with myself is I've been so much more prone to say what the fuck I think, like some people at work recently were talking poorly about someone that I really like. And this kid, he's like a very socially awkward guy, but he's got great intentions. He's a good person, and a bunch of people were talking shit about him. And it's really awkward when you say something about that. Cause I said something. I was like, why are you guys doing that? Why are you talking about him that way? I was like, I think he's a good person. Like, why don't you give him a fucking chance? And like everyone shuts up because no one knows what to do when you address something like that. Yeah. Yeah. And then hopefully, they don't talk about that around me anymore. Maybe it's because it's like, oh, Cole will say something, or maybe it's because they thought about it. Probably not, but who knows? But I've just noticed that I've been a lot more prone over the past couple of years to be upfront about what I think and my decisions, and try not to get so wrapped up in letting other people decide things for me, because that's something I was really bad about, and that's something I've been really bad about within music, and that's why I think I'm so proud of the new stuff, because there's, no one was making decisions other than me until it got to the producing part, and that's what I paid Will to do, was to help me, finish everything up. But going into it, everything was written. All the lyrics, for the most part, were written, and it was just all me, And before, there was just lots of other people involved, and lots of other people not having bad intentions, but changing the outcome of what I was trying to do. And I hope it's not like narcissistic or anything, but I just, when I go into writing a song, like, I know what I need to do, kind of. Like, I know I'm going to wing it, but I know what feels right to me, and I need to base things off of that. Because I feel like, there's been so many times that I've had an idea and it's got shot down during, like, in the studio or whatever, because no one wants to try it. And I'm like, it'll fucking work. Just trust me. Like, guys, I know it'll work. And that's something I really enjoyed about recording with Will, is whenever, I had an idea, or, he had an idea or something, we would make it work. And like, we would work on an hour or two for it until it was correctly implemented, and yeah, so I've just been a lot more straightforward with kind of everything, a lot more straightforward with my approach to writing music, and not allowing other people to, change it. And that's, this is the first time I've ever been like a solo artist or anything, so to speak. And I've been a musician since I was like 7 or 8 years old, and I finally just hit a point where I was like, I just need to do this myself, I just need to write what I want to write. I want to talk about whatever I need to talk about. And that's just what I'm going to do, And I feel like it shows in the new stuff. I feel like there's a very, not to hate on the first album or anything, but I feel like there's a very obvious difference. And I feel like that obvious difference is really just how genuine the new stuff was. None of it was forced. It was just, that's just what I'm going to do.
Right. Right. Do you get caught up in, perfectionism?
I
too much in all this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
I feel like that's like the harsh balance with so much, is like, okay, like, I'm being authentic to me in creating this thing, but then is authentic to you, like rethinking and overthinking, and then trying to like, no, like, we have to get it this way because this is how it feels. Like, do you feel like you ever get trapped in that at all, or you?
Sometimes with certain things, and usually it's something dumb, like it'll be like, dude, like, I need to do an upstroke on that one guitar part, and I'm like, wait, no one's going to notice. But sometimes, even though no one will notice, like, consciously, like, that does matter, because it just creates a feeling that even if you can't explain it, or you can't put it into words, it creates something,
Yeah, see, I feel like that a lot, because this even circles back to the whole, like, nobody cares thing, right? Where it's like, hey, it can be whatever version of it you want it to be, and as long as it feels right to you, no one else is going to know right or wrong. No one's going to know the difference. Like, no one knows what other versions of this were in your head as you were trying to create it. But I'm in line with that, where, like, there are, when I get specific about something, it's because I'm like, well, but it's because it needs to feel this way, or it needs to sound this way, or it needs to look this way to convey this feeling or emotion. Yeah. And so it's like, I don't get caught up in the perfectionism of, is this the most perfect it can be? Is this the blah, blah, blah? Most of the time I'm like, I just want to get this done.
Yeah. Oh,
like,
yeah.
I need to take this idea from my head. I just need it to exist in real life. It needs to be done. But when it comes to those details of, does this evoke, the emotion that I wanted it to?
Yeah.
Or does this feel the right way? Like, does it like seeing it in quote unquote real life feel the same way that it felt in my brain? Like, those are when I dig into the details of like, yes, there's some things where I'm going to be like, hey, yeah, I don't know, the lighting can be as good as it needs to be for this film. As long as it looks not crappy, I'm fine with
that.
That
works.
But maybe the perfecting something down to like the tone of the way someone delivers dialogue.
Yeah.
That's where I'm going to get stuck.
No,
You know
I'm
what
the
I
same
mean?
way
Like,
within music. Yeah. So there's a lot of things that I don't care about, but then there will be that one little thing that I'm like, guys, I can't explain it. I can't explain it, but it just has to be there.
Yeah.
And it's funny. You say that you have a lot of ideas in your brain that you bring to fruition. Dude, a lot of my stuff is I have nothing in my brain and I just make something. Like a lot of my music, like when I'm writing the instrumentals, because that's usually what I do first. Usually I'm all over the place with my writing style. Like sometimes a song will start from like a little like a little melody that I sing, but usually I start with some kind of instrumental thing. And a lot of times my favorite stuff is literally I just there it is, first try. Like just first try, whatever. Like that I like the way that sounds. Then I just do that, and then I build each part. Very rarely do I get stuck in a part where I tried 6 different bridges and tried, all these different versions of something. It's typically just whatever comes out when I sit down with my guitar. But then there will be other times where I sit down for 8 hours and I come up with literally nothing. And I'm like, I hate everything I did today. Nothing. And then there's other times I sit down 2 hours and I'm like, holy shit, that's the best thing I've made yet,
Right,
and
right.
It really is not as thought through as it might seem, But once I have something where I have like the skeleton of a song, that's when I really start diving into the details and the nuance. Because I feel like nuance is very important with the music, with how you transition part to part, and exactly how something's performed, and exactly how this part is played, and like how hard it's played, and how I do dive into the very specific details. But when it comes to writing, I'm kind of just like, all right, that's the bridge. Yeah, cool.
Right,
that works.
You really kind of feel it in that you're like, this came to me, and this is that this actually works. Like very natural.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and with vocals, because that's my least favorite thing to do. It's become more enjoyable lately. I used to fucking hate it.
Really?
It's like that's the last thing I want to do is write lyrics and come up with vocal melodies. Like
you said, you didn't sing until the Hunting Project.
Yeah, not really. I mean, I was in
popped up.
Yeah, I was in like choir and stuff in high school, and like I didn't not like singing. It just never been what I'd done, and I never found myself to be interesting enough to have enough to say, and that's something I struggle with sometimes. Is like, what the fuck do I talk about? Because I make so much music, but I don't always know exactly what to talk about. I tried to really get into it this time around, and I actually did really enjoy making the vocal parts for the last batch of songs that I put out, and it's been something I've found a lot more enjoyment in, which has been nice because it felt like a chore the first time around with the first album. A lot of it. Some of the songs did not. Fade to Gray, that one just kind of happened. It just kind of came out, and I just had these vocal parts, and they just happened, and I enjoyed doing that one. And I usually enjoy it after the fact, but sometimes it feels very painstaking, just trying to come up with stuff and trying to come up with what I'm going to talk about. And so yeah, I just went into the last time of recording like, all right, I'm going to enjoy it this time. Like I'm going to try and have some fun with my vocals. Like I really wanted to do that very like flowy kind of, because I'm super into like Mac Miller. I'm super into hip hop and stuff. So I wanted to kind of bring that like flowy kind of R&B-ish like style, like swagger, like, bravado a little bit into some of the stuff. Like the second song, FML, is my favorite off the 3 new ones, but I really just love the vocal melodies and like the chorus of that song. I just feel like they're so satisfying to me for some reason, And that I actually did spend a lot of time on, trying to get that perfect and get exactly that hook exactly the way I wanted it. But then there's other parts, like that little rap bridge part I came up with like 2 days before I went out there, and I was like, all right, like this isn't typically something that I would do, but it fits and it feels right, so I'm going to put it in there,
Yeah.
So yeah, it's an interesting process, kind of writing stuff, and it's so hard to, like, because I don't just have a formula, like every time that I write a song, it's like, it feels like I'm starting over completely. That's something that I'm starting to realize, like, shit, how do bands do this for?
I was about to ask you that, like, do you have a process of, does a melody come to you and then or do you have, notes full of lyrics or possible lyric ideas in your phone, and then once you find a melody, you start piecing those together? But like, it's just sort of...
It's so random, dude.
Really?
It's so unorthodox. Like, a lot of times the vocals will start with, like, I just finish the instrumental or get somewhere and I turn it on and I just kind of start saying gibberish until I land on something, and then you'll, oh, holy fuck, I got to remember that, and you'll, do a little voice memo, and then I start to build off of that, and then the next thing I know, I have like a whole verse and chorus, and it works. But I have so many songs that are just unfinished, will never be finished, hundreds of them, so yeah, I don't really have a specific process, and I kind of like that in a way.
Yeah, it sounds like you organically you make music.
Yeah.
You just let it flow.
Yeah, I just do it,
Yeah.
But that's not to say that I don't know what I'm doing, because I feel like I do to an extent, but I can't always put it into words, because I learned how to play guitar in a very unorthodox way, YouTube University, like, and just kind of just figuring it out. Like, I don't know music theory. I don't know any of that shit. I don't know. I kind of know how to read music, but I'm not good at it, and I have no intention on getting good at it, because it feels like a chore, so I have no desire to. So yeah, it's a very random process. It's very, like, I'll be honest, I smoke a fuck ton of weed, so I love just like smoking some weed and making some music, and I just kind of do it, and it's really enjoyable. I do it because I genuinely like doing it. Like, it's my favorite pastime is to sit down and like make a banger,
Yeah. So would you say, I feel like you said this earlier, but I kind of want to circle back around to it before we officially like start wrapping up. Like, would you say that like making music or telling stories and sharing emotion through music do you feel like that's your purpose?
Oh, absolutely, man.
Yeah.
It is 100. It always has been. And I've always known that. And I'm still trying to figure out exactly how to do it, and because it's not easy. It's definitely not easy, but I'm grateful to know what I want to do with my life. And I know it's music because I've always known since I was a child.
When I'm going to interrupt you again.
Yeah,
I'm so
go ahead,
sorry.
man. I ramble.
When did it first click for you? Like, when was it when you were like, this music thing is awesome?
Yeah, dude. I was like 7 years old, and I was listening to. My mom used to take me to the library, and I go and burn a bunch of CDs, and I burned the album Chuck by Sum 41. You know that album? Or Sum 41?
I do. Yeah. Yes. I couldn't be like, here's 3 songs off the album, but yes.
I could go through a whole fucking spiel on that band, because everyone got into them with they were like very pop punk, like that one song Fat Lip. Everyone knows that song.
Yeah.
But after that, their catalog goes so deep, and they had some very artistic and just amazing albums. And I remember seeing that album at the library, and I thought it was cool, and I downloaded it, and there's a song on the album called Pieces, and I remember it's in D minor, and that's like, for some reason as a 7-year-old, that just clicked so much for me. I remember listening to that song on repeat for like hours and hours on end, just laying in my bed, just started over and over and over and over and fucking over again. And I just remember being like, I want to know how to do that. That's really cool. I like that. And, so I remember bugging my mom about like guitar stuff for a while. And I actually have this old Gibson guitar. It's like it's like over 100 years old. Like, I think it's like a 1902. It's worth a shit ton of money, which I didn't know at the time. I found it in like our like closet, and had like a hole in the back and like no strings and everything. And we kind of fixed it up, and I still have it to this day. And I've been offered like 10 grand for that thing before, and never take it, because that's what I learned how to play on. It's a beautiful instrument, man.
Wow.
And I just remember it just started this obsession. obsessed my entire life. I've gone through so many different phases where I just get obsessed with an artist or a piece of music or something, and that's all I can think about. And it's just been a lifelong obsession, and it hasn't gone anywhere. It's never waned. It's always been like, I've just always been certain,
When do you feel like you first felt proof that you were supposed to make music? Like, was it like the very first song you ever recorded and you were like, yes, this solidified this feeling? Or like, what was that for you?
I remember it really clicking for me because I almost gave up a couple times because learning guitar was difficult for me, especially with not like having really too much guidance with it. I did take lessons from someone, and they never really clicked. I've never been able to do music-related things that feel like a chore. I'll always give up. And literally every time I remember I had this guitar teacher, and she'd give me like fucking hot cross buns. I'm like, that is the last thing that I want to learn how to do, and I would just not practice.
Dude, Again, we are very similar in that way, where I'm like, I have to like learn in my own way by just like really trying it, not learning this like half desensitized version of the thing.
It's got to be enjoyable,
Yeah.
And I remember like getting into like weird open tunings with guitar from a lot of guitarists that I really loved at the time. I was obsessed with, acoustic, like flamenco style, like Latin kind of style guitar. And that's actually honestly my specialty, and I never use it. And I'm going to try and incorporate that in some of the new hunting project stuff in the future, because I fucking like, that's what I've always done is the acoustic guitar. And I can do crazy shit on the acoustic, and I've just never really shown anyone. But I remember I sucked and I sucked and I sucked, and I didn't know what I was doing. And then one day I, tuned my guitar in this weird tuning, and I was like, holy shit, I get it now. Like I just get it now. And from there on out, I just kept doing it and kept playing. And I started getting into songwriting a few years ago. And I've always been into metal. I've always been into punk. I've always been into a very wide variety of music. I was listening to Alina Baraz on the way over here, if you know who that is. It's very chill, relaxing music. Honestly, I'm going to have to sing you this album. You would fucking love it, bro.
Please do, yeah.
So or I'll listen to just straight video game soundtracks or some shit. And like, I look at music as a palette to express any emotion that you can possibly imagine. And sometimes it doesn't even have to be about that. It just got to be fun. Sometimes I just make fucking ridiculously heavy prog technical shit, not because I'm pissed, but because it's fun. It's a lot of fun to make, and yeah. So, I mean, to answer your question, I don't know if there's really a moment where I was like this, but there's probably been many of those moments. And it's trying to top those moments. The most recent moment was finishing those 3 songs that I just released. I was, when I was making them and after the fact, there was no doubt in my mind that they were the best thing that I've done yet. So now trying to top that is interesting, but I'm just going to keep doing what I've always done and just kind of wing it, honestly. I'm going back to record with Will the first week of August.
Nice.
I got 3 songs that I'm really stoked on. I'm finishing up like the writing process with those right now. And my philosophy is like, I know so many people that are like, if you market this way and you do that and you do these brands and blah, blah, blah. Nah, dude. I mean, I'm sure that has something to do with it. But for me, I think if I just keep making good music over and over and fucking over again, eventually it's going to work,
Right.
Like that. It just comes down to just making it and just doing it.
And being authentic in how you're making it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I'm really excited to see where I go and what music comes from where, and, figure out what the fuck I'm going to talk about,
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a really interesting process. And, sometimes I go and I'm like, holy shit, I'm so dope. And then other times I'm like, God damn, I fucking suck.
Yep.
I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to write a song. I lost it. And then a couple days later, I write the best thing that I wrote to that day. And it's just been a cycle over and over and over again. So I definitely don't have an ego, because there's dudes out there like the guys in Polyphia or Periphery or all these crazy or Architects, and you know who they are, that I'm like, that is God tier. I'm not quite there yet. I can't have an ego until I'm better than those guys,
Right.
But I know that I'm pretty good, I've been doing it a long time. I know what I'm doing in my own way, and I don't think my songs sound like shit and people like them. So,
and there's nothing wrong with confidence.
Yeah.
Like that, I think people, often look at confidence and there the cliche, like there's a fine line between cockiness and confidence, but I think most people just immediately look at confidence and see it as cockiness when it's like, no. It's okay to be confident in what you're doing. It's okay to know that you're good at something or know that you can get better or that know that what you're doing is important or cool or like whatever it is. Like I feel like a lot of people look at confidence as just straight cockiness. And they're just like, oh my God, how could you be so sure of yourself? And it's like, because if I don't believe in myself,
then
like,
who's going to?
Yeah,
because no one cares, and you have to make them care.
Exactly.
You know? Yeah, exactly. And for the first time, honestly, in my life, I feel comfortable being confident in myself and knowing that I'm pretty good at this. Because I've never really felt that way before. I've always been like, I think I'm pretty good, and I've always had people tell me that I'm good and everything, but I'm sure you damn well know that doesn't really do anything. Like it's nice and I appreciate it, but it doesn't change how I feel about my own stuff. You know?
That voice has to come from within, telling you that you're good at something. 100%.
Yeah. And even if I'm not good at it, at least I like doing it, so I'm going to keep doing it.
Also that. Yeah. Yes. And it doesn't matter if anybody else thinks you're good at it or not. If you enjoy doing it, then that's the real key to do it. Dude, I feel like we could talk for hours and hours.
Has it already been 2 hours?
Yes, it has.
Holy shit, dude. I was worried about not having enough to say.
No, dude. That was a blast. One thing before we officially wrap up. When you're back in town to record with Will, please let me know. Yeah. And if you've got downtime whenever you're here, let's freaking snag lunch or something.
Dude.
Because the rest of these hours that we could be talking, let's make those happen at a different point in time.
Absolutely, man.
I mean, like, that's even why I wanted to have you on, man. Like, you were a blast to sit and chat with when I chatted with, you and Joey about hunting project stuff a couple years ago. And again, fan of the music, fan of what you do, but I was more so a fan of just how you shared it. And again, it was like, to be completely honest, you have been on the list of people I wanted to get on the show for a while.
That's dope.
But I think it was like sort of an extra push when even I saw that kind of return caption with the hunting project of shedding a little bit of light onto that story and what you've been through in the last couple of years. And I was like, man, he is fun to hang out with and talk to. Now let's just like dig further into this. So, dude, I appreciate you being down to do this.
Absolutely, man. I'm so glad that you had me on. I had a fucking blast talking about all this stuff. And, usually I don't really like sharing too much on social media about like my personal life, not because I'm like, oh, social media is scary or whatever. Like, I think it has its pros and cons, but it's something I'm like, I guess I'm gonna have to get more comfortable with it. I really am an open book in person, as you can tell. I just spill my fucking guts, But yeah. So I've always really respected you. Like, I loved how you first reached out to me, and we just had like, it was just a conversation. And you're a fucking good guy, man, and you're good at what you do, and I really want to do some creative shit together at some point.
I would love that. I honestly, this conversation, I've already got some ideas spinning, so we're going to have to talk about this at some point.
We absolutely will, man.
Man, I appreciate that, dude. I am so stoked that you were down to do this, and even on your authentic note of being like, I don't know if I like sharing, but I'm just going to share who I am. That to me, you mentioned earlier about like people being like, marketing, branding, all that sort of stuff. Authenticity is the best way to brand yourself.
Yeah, I think you're right, man.
That is what I try and lead with. We're like, I want things to look cool and I want things to, come off the right way and whatever, but I'm always going to lead that with authenticity.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I, again, that was the key. I feel like that made me be like, I need to reach out to Cole. I need to reconnect. We need to catch up.
Hell yeah.
But we need to do it with microphones in front of us.
Fuck yeah.
Dude, is there anything that you feel like we didn't touch on? Like, is there a huge part of your story? Like, are there more concussions? Are there more
there's no more concussions.
Okay.
Honestly,
I don't want us to wrap up and then you be driving home and be like, how did I not share this?
No, I don't think so. I think I told you the majority of it. And, obviously I can never adequately explain exactly how it was, because it was the weirdest thing that's ever happened to me.
Yeah.
Definitely the shittiest thing that's ever happened to me. And I'm not necessarily glad it happened, but it definitely brought me to where I am. And the second time around, hitting that extreme low with, my breakup and the concussion again, I feel like it lit kind of a fire within me, man? Like, I came back and I was like, I'm going to fucking do this. Like, I want to make some goddamn music. I'm sick of not making music. I'm sick of not being able to do what I want. So I made a lot of life changes. I got a job doing something that I actually really enjoy. And, I was like, fuck my job. I don't want to go to work every day and hate it. So I'm going to go do something I want to do. If I got to work, I might as well do something I want to do. And I was like, I haven't made music in this long. I might as well just fucking do it, you know? So I just started just doing things, you know, and stop just like, oh, you know, it's expensive, or maybe I shouldn't do this, whatever. Like, I just started doing, you know? And I think that's been really great for me. Just, if it's on my mind and it's something that I'm interested in and something I think could be good for me, might as well do it, because I want to live an interesting life, you know? I don't want to live some boring 9-to-5 everyday life. Like, I want to see the world. There's a lot out there. I want to bring something to the world, and I know what I can bring is music. So, yeah, man, that's pretty much it.
I love it. Well, I'm glad you feel like you got to share everything you wanted to share. Like, that's, if anything, I want this podcast to feel like it's like a therapy session. So I'm always like, all right, I want you to make sure you tell everything that you feel like telling, so that way it wasn't you leave here being like, what a weird Q&A.
Yeah. Dude, I appreciate you even having interest in it, you know, because I obviously my friends and close family know what happened, but I've never gone into such excruciating detail of all of it, because it was a lot, you know. And it wasn't like I was scared to talk about it or anything. It was just like, didn't know anyone wanted to know.
Right,
you know?
Right. Well, I mean, dude, just like I said at the start of this show, like, I feel like everybody's story is valuable in some way. You don't have to be a millionaire. You don't have to be famous. You don't have to be super successful. You don't have to be anything other than you. And I feel like there's value in that story no matter what. So I always love sitting and getting to chat with people, uncover those things that a lot of people don't normally get to hear.
Yeah, dude. What you don't hear, right?
There it is.
Boom.
There it is. Okay, final question before we officially wrap up.
Yeah.
I ask the same question to wrap up every podcast the exact same way.
All right.
So here's the question.
What is it?
I want you to pretend right now that everyone in the world, everywhere, language barriers don't matter, electricity doesn't matter, none of it matters. Technology does not matter. You can even talk to aliens if you want. Let's say the universe. Who cares, right? I want you to pretend like everyone everywhere is on the other end of that microphone right now. And you get to share something with them. You get to tell them something that you feel like they need to hear. What is it that you're sharing with everybody in that moment?
Don't take yourself too seriously, man. I've spent so much time, you know, trying to be a certain way, or trying to be cool or whatever, trying to write songs a specific way because I feel like that would do well or whatever. But like, dude, the fact that we even exist, as cliche as it is, it's pretty fucking crazy, you know? And like, there's all this out there. There's so many people in this world. There's so much that we can never possibly understand. Like, don't take yourself too seriously. You're just one person. You know, we're all a lot more alike than we are different. Like, do what you want to do. Don't waste your fucking life doing bullshit that you don't want to do, you know? And check out my bangers if you care, you know? Like, be a good person and just enjoy your life, because who the fuck knows what happens when we die. That's a whole nother conversation. That shit's scary, but you might as well, while you're here, make it worth it, you know? So that's my piece on the matter.
Yeah. Dude, I love it, man. Cool. That was a freaking blast.
Yeah, dude.
So before we officially say goodbye, where can people find you around the internet? And if they want to check out those bangers, if they want to check out the Hunting Project, we've been talking about it this whole episode, where can they go find all the music you've been putting out or have previously put out?
Literally anywhere. Spotify is the biggest one, you know. That's what most people have. But it's on Apple Music, iTunes, Amazon, literally all that shit. But I guess the best way to support me is probably Spotify, because I just like seeing that monthly listener thing go up, because I'm like, fuck yeah, you know?
Of course.
So literally just search The Hunting Project. Check out the new stuff. The new EP is called Head Trauma. My favorite is personally FML, Fuck My Life. That's how I was feeling at the time. And yeah. I hope you guys like it if you decide to give it a listen, you know. I'm pretty stoked on it. And I'm never going to go this long without releasing music again. So I'm going to release a lot more music this year and a fuck ton of music next year.
Well, hey, you've got a fan sitting across the table from you right now.
I'm a fan of you too,
I will be freaking stoked for the next set of music, just like I've been stoked on everything so far. Dude, that's it. We made a podcast, man.
Yeah, dude.
And I also think we became better friends in the process.
Absolutely.
Dude. 110%. Cole, thank you so freaking much, dude.
Thank you, man. This was so much fucking fun. I'm so glad we did this. I want to do it again. I want to come back sometime.
Dude, I'm always down for that. Like I said, there's plenty more I feel like we can talk about.
There's so much to talk about.
There's always room for more.
Yeah.
Dude, thank you, man.
Yeah, man, absolutely.
Dude, that was so much fun.
Fuck yeah, dude. That was a blast.
Okay, big thanks to Cole for opening up and getting as honest as he did here. I always always appreciate when guests do that. I never know where these conversations are going to go, honestly, but they always end up being a blast. And also, I honestly need to start recording like the post-pod conversations I have with guests as well, because I don't know, just like making them extra episodes, because so often we have like a whole other episode's worth of conversation once we stop rolling on the actual episode. I think in this one, Cole and I legitimately talked for like probably another hour and a half after we stopped recording. I don't know how it happens. You'd assume after talking for like 2 hours of both me talking to someone and someone talking to me that we'd both probably be super done speaking after that, but somehow it's a big old nope. Not when you're me and you talk more than enough for an entire group of people. So yeah, all in all, if you liked this episode, please make sure to tell someone about it. Tell me, tell Cole, or the internet in general at large, by sharing this in your Instagram story or tossing a comment on the YouTube video, whatever it is. Share it somewhere, tag us, let us know that you liked it. Word of mouth is the only way this show is going to keep growing, folks, so help me out if you'd be so kind to. But 100%, regardless of that, you need to check out Cole's music under the Hunting Project. You can find it everywhere you find music. The original album is awesome. His new EP is awesome. It's just all flat out awesome. So go check it out. Genuinely one of the cooler bands that I've heard pop up from Ohio in the last few years. So there it is. There's another episode in the books. Like, share, tag, follow, subscribe, feed that algorithm, feed the almighty algorithm, please. But for sure, hit that subscribe button, hit that follow button on Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcast. Make sure you do that so that way you don't miss the next episode where I sit down for another fun conversation with a brand new guest that you may or may not know of, sharing their story that you for sure never heard.